Alright, so let's talk about a tool I'm using to aid in leveling a section of my backyard that I'll be putting an above ground pool in. And so this entire area, about 18 feet in diameter, has to be perfectly level in order for my pool to have a solid foundation that the pool is not going to lean one way or the other or have lumps in it. And so this tool that I'm using is called a water level. And so I built it for about $25. You can find a lot of great videos on YouTube. This one's my specific design. And so what I have here, mainly three components. The first one's the base station. Base station is going to be full, probably have it halfway at the moment, full of water that I've used food dye. I think it's either black or purple. Poured the entire bottle of it in, and that aids in reading in this vinyl tubing the measurement that you're wanting. And so one concern I had was maybe it would dye this vinyl tubing the color of the dye, but it's been like this for an entire year without being drained, and it doesn't dye the vinyl tubing, at least not within a year. So the second component is this, what we'll call a story pole. And the story pole is what you're going to walk around and get measurements of how level or unlevel your backyard is. And how this works is this watermark right here matches up exactly with the watermark that's inside of this base station. So I think I said it was halfway full, but I can actually see it on camera now. See the water levels right here, and that matches up exactly with where the water level is on this. And so with your story pole, if you raise the pole, the water line will drop, but it actually still stays level with where it's at in the base station. And if you lower it, it'll then rise, but it's really just staying level with that mark inside of the base station. And so that's how water naturally reacts, is it wants to always be level, and it will always flow into the point that it is. And so watch if I raise my story pole all the way to where it all drains out. That's still level with the water that's in the base station. And so the height of the base station doesn't really matter. You just need to put it at a comfortable point that you could read your story pole accurately. And so obviously if I just showed you, if I had my base station too high, you're not going to get any reading in your story pole. And so what you do is you're going to want, when you build this, to have, I'm going to say 20 to 30 feet of vinyl tubing. And then I've got the bottom of this drilled out and then a fitting screwed in. And so the downside of it, having it on the bottom, is you have to lean it over the edge like this. But I was finding that I was getting a little bit of leak on the side if I put the fitting in there. So I just hang it over the side a little bit, and it hasn't leaked a drop. The only areas it leaks is it might slosh out the top just a wee bit. And so the objective here for digging out the topsoil for my above ground pool is you got to find the lowest point of the yard that the pool is going in. And so I found that by just going around, taking a lot of measurements, and I ended up in this area. And this number that it ends up at is actually arbitrary. This cloth tape measure that I've put on here, this number just represents the base station and this water line for the lowest point. But you could say, hey, I'm not going to move that base station. And if you do, you got to recalibrate where you're at. But right now I'm calibrated for the lowest point being right about 26 inches, a hair under. And so what you can do then is go around the area you're working in, and we'll go to the highest point. Drop your story pole down. And so this is right, say if I hadn't dug out this area yet, you'd see that the lower the number now, because as I rise this, the water is going to lower. The lower the number, the higher elevation of soil I'm going to be dealing with. And so this is about 20.5. So 5.5 inches higher is this portion of my yard than the lowest portion over there. And so as you can see, I've had to dig out quite a bit. And so if I set this down, I'll see if I still need to go any further. And now you'll see that the higher the number, the closer I am to being level with the area over there. So you can see I still need to go almost an entire inch further down. And then if I come to the center of this pool region where I haven't dug out the topsoil, you'd be able to see that it wouldn't be wise to dig as deep, because just to the mark of the topsoil is only about an inch also. And so that region was 5.5 inches higher. This region in the center is only an inch difference. And so as I continue to come this way, that number gets closer and closer to 26. And so when you first set it down, it's going to bob up and down, but after about 5 seconds, it'll find its level. And so I'm still about an inch. And then right as I come back over, I get the reading. So some other factors, like I had said, I nailed a cloth tape measure, wrapped it to the bottom and then around to the top. I've got the vinyl tubing and these cable mounts of sorts. They're the type that you just nail in. And then I got a 2x4 that in the bottom I drilled a hole so that I could put the tubing through. And that was so every region that I work like this, the vinyl tubing isn't getting caught up. I find that works really well. This is my second iteration of the water level. And I've had this iteration for about a year now, maybe 2 years. Time flies. And then as I said, you want a lot of vinyl tubing because this pool's diameter is 18 feet. And so I don't have to move my base station at all. See how I'm 18 feet away and I still have a lot of slack? So maybe this is 25 feet long. Then I can go anywhere and everywhere. Some other recommendations I would have is if you're using this in the heat of the day where the sun is shining on the base station and the ambient temperature is rising, you're gonna have to recalibrate the point that you have at your lowest. And so we had said earlier it was about 26 inches. And so you could come out here first thing in the morning on your project, take a pen or a piece of like blue painter's tape, mark this area so that everywhere that you work at, you know, oh hey, I need to go an inch or 2 inches or 5 inches. But as the water expands due to the heat increasing, this line's going to continue to rise. And so you need to recalibrate depending on the temperature change, maybe every half hour. It's really quick. Just you can mark your region as the lowest on the ground. Just come over here really quick and then move your blue painter's tape or your tack that you put in there. So that way you don't get off on your measurements. So like I think I said in the beginning, it was about $25 of tools. I got everything at Lowe's. That small little bucket, the fitting, the vinyl tubing, cloth tape measure might be from Walmart. These little mounts, and then the 2x4. And so this is significantly cheaper than buying a laser level, which works great and is much more precise, but costs hundreds of dollars. So this water level you can make yourself for $25. And it'll last you, if you build it correctly, you know, for years. And I haven't had to empty it out. It doesn't leak at all. And the food coloring, I would also highly recommend, hasn't dyed the vinyl tubing at all. My first iteration didn't have the dye in it, and it was kind of hard to read. It was really bright outside. You couldn't tell where the water was really ending up. So I would highly recommend the food coloring. You can just buy a single tube of it, probably for like $7 at Walmart. So that's one more thing to purchase and dump it in. And that's pretty much it. If you have any questions, just ask them in the comment section. I'll try to answer them.